welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE, and my next guest is a force of nature in both business and wellness with a Ph.D. in health economics and a prestigious role as a professor of marketing and entrepreneurship. She combines brain power with heart-centered strategy. A business wellness coach, best-selling author, and host of the globally ranked Happy Healthy Hustle podcast. Her work is laser focused on helping entrepreneurs and professionals achieve massive results through small, sustainable actions, what she calls her Petite Practice framework. With thousands of followers tuning into her tips on Instagram and YouTube, her impact is both academic and deeply personal. Whether you're burnt out, stuck in a rut, or simply ready to scale with sanity, Dr. Christiane Schroeter is a no fluff solution to stick by. Welcome to the show. Hello.
Well, hey there. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure's all mine. So, what inspired you to bridge wellness and entrepreneurship into one coaching method?
No, I love this question because if you think about being an entrepreneur, you are driven by your passion, and sometimes you don't know when to stop and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So we want to make our business run and we want to scale. And of course, frequently we are doing this in the vacuum of our home. And there's frequently nobody that tells us you got to take a break. Why don't you go outside? Why don't you stretch? Why don't you take care of yourself? Because we have this innate drive. And I think that to be the best entrepreneur, you have to take care of yourself. It's just like what the airplane tells us. To be the best version of yourself, you have to take care of yourself. And only then you can really teach the very best knowledge that you have in your mind, because your mind is sharp and clear and not exhausted, overwhelmed, and completely tired.
How does your background in health economics shape your Petite Practice framework?
For me, it was always about breaking down a big vision and a goal into small steps. And I call it Petite Practice because you can hear from my accent, I am from Europe. I grew up in Germany, and Germany, the state where I grew up in Germany, is actually bordering France. And so I went to France every spring break, actually have a family there. And so I speak fluent French as well. And I always felt that a lot of the European cultures really have it down with regard to its leisure, and you work to get the leisure. And when I came to the United States, I knew immediately this is my country. I want to live here. But I always thought that the thinking was a little bit reverse.
Yeah.
That a lot of people here really work and they kind of forget about that leisure aspect.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm still rooted in Europe, even though now I planted myself into California where I'm teaching entrepreneurship. I still want to bring some of my roots with me, and that European thinking about putting my wellness first also drove what I studied with my PhD, my health economics, and that little French break, that Petite Practice that we need to take, or breaking down one goal into small steps, still really overarches my coaching approach today.
Awesome. Sorry about that. What's the biggest myth you see around productivity in the entrepreneur world?
I think one of the myth really is that you start your day with a long to-do list and that you end your day having checked off a lot of those things from your to-do list. I think one of the biggest approaches to life is really celebrating a win. And I think if you set yourself up with 15 things on your to-do list, it's kind of hard to celebrate wins because you feel like you're swimming against the stream. It's so hard to win because there are so many different things. And then of course, this is just how you start your day. And who knows what the day throws at you, right? This is like in a perfect world where you just have this amount of time where you can work on something completely, no distractions whatsoever. So I think it's best to just set it up and like starting with 3 things. And if you completed those, celebrate that. You can always celebrate those wins at the end of the day. But I think in starting and really scheduling so much on your to-do list, it makes it very difficult because most of the time those things on the to-do list are also all business related. So I would rather like that you put your calendar together and maybe schedule a walk or a stretch or some time with your family or a time when you can maybe actually not maybe even do anything. You just sit outside and you just kind of enjoy letting your mind wander, making creativity grow, because I think the best entrepreneurs are the ones that are creative and they have that playtime, that moment where they are not staring at a screen. And I think one of the myth is that the best ideas come when you're looking at the screen, when you're looking at that long to-do list. And I think stepping away from it and really downsizing your to-do list will increase your productivity tremendously.
Yeah, because you're basically setting yourself up to fail when you schedule so many things, right? Because you're not gonna care that you did get 6 of the things on the list completed. You're gonna worry about the 9 or so that you didn't get done. So it's when you celebrate the little accomplishments and like you said, don't overdo it. You do 3, 4 of them, get them done and celebrate those things. And that's something a lot of us don't do is celebrate the little things where if you learn how to celebrate the little things, when the big celebration comes, you're prepared.
Completely. And I also think that you also in your business need to kind of like be very humble sometimes about how much you already have accomplished. One of my favorite sayings is think about the day when you prayed for where you are today. Think about how far you already have come. So looking back, whether that's from, the past 24 hours, the past week, the past month, the past 5 years, think about how much you already accomplished. And as an entrepreneur, share that out with your audience, your transformation, your story, because that will inspire others. And that's kind of like an ongoing thing on your to-do list to
Yeah.
inspire others about your transformation. So I think that the entrepreneurs frequently they just keep looking into the future and keep moving on instead of looking back and thinking how far have I already come. I remember the day when I was praying for sitting here today and doing this, and let's also be take a moment and pause and celebrate that.
Oh, no, I I started podcasting in 2020, and at first when I started, it wasn't interview based. It was just me talking because I was furloughed from work. It was at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was home. So I had already wanted to start a podcast, but I was just stuck in my own head, making excuses to why I couldn't start a podcast because nobody knows me, who's going to want to listen to me. And so I finally just went press record, and I recorded probably like 5, 7 minutes was the first episode, and I just uploaded that, and that's what started me. And it's grown now to where as far as my audio, I just released episode 269, and and halfway through that journey, I switched to doing video. Like the first half of that was probably just strictly audio, and then I converted to video, and I just started seeing that I was just I could tell people at 44 I didn't know what my purpose in life was. And so when I started my podcast and I started interviewing people and I started speaking to coaches and entrepreneurs, and a lot of them had amazing stories, and the messages I started receiving from people were, "Thank you, I needed to hear that episode," or "This I needed to hear this such and such episode." I started going like, "Okay, I found something now. I have a platform where I can have people like yourself come on, share your stories, share what you're doing to help improve other people's lives. And one key thing I'm realizing is that people who come on the show and like yourself love what they do. It's not like it's not like a task. Like when you love what you're doing, it's a completely different feeling than anything else. So, how did writing your first book change your approach to business?
Oh, and this is a beautiful transition. I loved writing that book. To me, a lot of times when you hear somebody say, I'm studying business, there's a certain amount of respect. And it's like, wow, yeah, that sounds like, some dense stuff going on there, numbers and like, case studies, maybe. I thought that we need to bring back a little bit more of the applied learning into business. I don't want to just my students buy this big business book that is already at the time of publication dated because a lot of the case studies, you're reading them, you're like, hold on, that's like, that happened like 5 years ago. To my students that I see in the classroom, 5 years is a long time.
Mhm.
They just started high school at that time. So I can't teach them something that's like, yeah, is such a long time ago. So I need to keep things current. And I thought when I wrote my book, I'm going to keep it very agile because marketing is agility. I also want to keep it super on trend because I teach marketing, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And I also want to make sure that the students understand that they themselves need to innovate something to leave legacy. So my book is not just a book that you sit down and you read. It's also not one of those books you put on a coffee table and you use it as a paperweight or something. It's actually a workbook. And so there's space to write in there. There are barcodes that you can scan with your phone to listen. There are barcodes to watch. It's very interactive because I think we're all different learners. So I want to make sure that we can enter a book from different angles depending on how we learn or how we feel on that day to learn. But we
Mhm.
are all learning business because at the end of the day, whether you own your business, whether you want to start a business, or whether you're doing your day-to-day life, you're still sharing your story with others and you want to leave some footprint in the world because at the end of your life you will be like, so what did I leave behind? What's my legacy? And I think that was really the intention when I wrote my first book, How to Master Your Goals.
Awesome. What was your mindset like when you were launching Discover Your Superpower?
Yeah, I loved how you talked earlier about the guests that you met on your podcast and the stories that they shared. That was always on my mind in my podcast. The beautiful stories that the guests shared, and that somehow I wanted that the stories live on. And so the Discover Your Superpower book answers the very first question that I ask each of my guests on the podcast. It's always the first question: what is your superpower? Because I've noticed when I asked them that their stories explained their superpower. So the Discover Your Superpower book really leads you through it, discovering your superpower. But at the same time, you can also read and listen to these beautiful stories from my podcast guests and figure out what is it about their stories that maybe triggers some memories or triggers something in my life. And what I think is amazing that most of the very successful entrepreneurs, business leaders, coaches have a really amazing transformational story. And so their superpower wasn't always there. It might actually even change. So Discover Your Superpower really goes through sharing what they did, but it allows you also to kind of adapt your own superpower.
Yeah, it's that'll be that's a good like I couldn't imagine asking my guest what's your super like. So that's how you start off every single show.
Every single show I ask, What's your superpower? And I also have to tell you, just because, I want to pique some curiosity here.
Yes.
Sometimes people ask me, what are you going to ask me on the show? And I share the questions with them. Sometimes I don't. And that's not intentional. It's just they didn't ask me. And so because I studied economics, at the end of the day, I'm an economist. So it's not like I have to necessarily tell you what the questions are. And so sometimes people are like, "Ah, cool, let's just record." And then I ask them, "What's your superpower?" And that really kind of stumps people. They're like, "Oh, I haven't actually thought about this." And so this is a good reminder to all of you listening right now. Your superpower is not something like, Superman, like climbing up walls or flying. It's not something, like out of this world. It's truly something that lives in you and maybe hasn't been polished and brought out yet. So the reason why I'm asking this, what's your superpower, is because I feel that we all have unique gifts. And if you don't share that with the world, you're stealing something from the world that they really wanted to enjoy. And of course, you never really feel, I loved your question earlier, you never really feel that you actually love what you're doing or you love who you are because you never discovered that superpower.
Yeah.
So that first question, I can honestly tell you from all of the guests I've met on my podcast, it always leads to very different results. And it's beautiful in how people interpret that question and what responses they give.
That's great. I love that. I love that. What daily habits do you never skip, no matter how busy you
Mm.
are? What is something you do without without a doubt, just every single day?
It's actually my morning and my evening.
Okay.
And if you, my students always make fun of me. They say, Dr. Schroeter, she's like full of analogies, and they just come in my mind. Maybe that's my superpower. I'm like a analogy maven. Who knows what? So my day is somewhat like a sandwich, right? So the buns, like the morning and the evening. There's the messy middle. The messy middle, that's like, I don't know what will happen, but the morning and the evening will not be skipped. Because I believe that when you wake up, no matter how you feel, if you have a routine in place, it will get you going. Because I don't have to think about it. It's kind of like sometimes when you drive a car and you're like, "Oh, where am I going?" Right? It's on autopilot. So my morning is scheduled. I stretch in the mornings. I drink a green smoothie. I have like certain things that I do in the morning. I have like, I put like a facial mask on my face to take care of myself. So there's a lot of things like body stretching. I do something for self-care. I do something for my mind. I read in the morning. I stretch. And I think that is so important because I feel I take care of myself before I interact with the whole world. So if I have some crazy early flights and I go somewhere for a meeting, fly across the country from California, we are always at the benefit of like we need to deal with like the crazy early flights because you're flying to the East Coast or I fly to Europe and give a speech there. I still do that routine, the stretching, the face mask, the smoothie, still the reading still happens. And at the end of the day, I always do a Pilates workout, and then I have dinner with my family. Now you're like, well, my family is not always with me. Like, for instance, when I travel, I don't always take them along with me. However, I still make sure I sit somewhere and I eat dinner. I don't eat dinner in front of the TV. I really want to honor the food that I made and that I
Yeah.
want to taste it and I want to chew it and I want to enjoy it. And so the workout and then the dinner routine is something that's the bottom part of my bun of my sandwich right there.
How do you personally manage energy when you're in launch or hustle mode?
Yeah, the energy is something that I have to say, and then I get that question a lot from my clients and from my students. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like you're like always like go go go." Um, I think that If you are convinced and you love what you do, coming back to your earlier question, the energy will just come because you're passionate about it. If you don't really believe in your product, or if you don't believe in your ability to do something like a service, right? Whether that's a service or your product, it's not going to create energy. And people, of course, pick up on this, right? So they will be like, "Ah," and then your energy fills off. And I think that if you are excited about what you do, if you are really passionate about a certain product, it will generate energy. I mean, energy is already there. You're
Yeah.
just basically tapping into this because you're like, "Oh my gosh, let me tell you about this." And then it will just be like, woof. Yeah. So that's kind of like what it happens. I have to tell you though, because I'm also a fitness instructor,
Yes.
that it's really, really important not to be like 180 all the time. And I notice that depending on the class that I teach. So, for instance, I teach a spin class, and people frequently associate spin classes with just these instructors that just scream at you like, "Oh, go, go." Even in my spin class, I have songs where I really pull it back because you have to give people some space too. You don't want to be like too much in their face. I also have songs where we basically sit in the saddle in my spin class, right? And we just kind of like, all right, so let's take this all in. What is happening here? And I'm a firm believer in harmony. I think you need to have the energy, but you also need to pull back, just like when I meet with my clients and I give them some space and kind of digest things. Because otherwise, you're feeling like it's like, the hamster in the wheel. It's like, "Oh, go, 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 go." It's not like that at all. No, you need to figure out how you can have energy at moments when it matters and pull back when you feel there is a moment when we need to digest now.
What what's been your most surprising lesson as a podcast host?
I think one of the most surprising lessons has been really the public speaking. When I was in college, I had joined Toastmasters. And even though I have given a lot of presentations, being on podcasts really makes me honor this and have tremendous gratitude for going through these podcasting events that really tied it back to Toastmasters. Because now I'm realizing that the Toastmasters training really was invaluable to being a good guest on podcasts, to really honor the time, to honor the listeners that frequently don't see you. And so you need to figure out, okay, what's my story arc right here? And I think that Toastmasters does a tremendous job in teaching you that.
Awesome. How do you reset after experiencing burnout or mental fatigue?
Yeah, I think I'm blessed because I live in California. And I'm personally drawn to water, to ocean.
Yeah.
That for me, it helps in stepping away from the computer, from my workspace, going to the beach, going for walks. In general, going for walks. So it doesn't always have to be at the beach. In general, going for walks helps. And listening to books. When I'm really feeling burned out or exhausted, I listening to the words of others, to business leaders. I basically a book per week is about what I read, right? And it helps me so much in reset, in reframe, because I have to focus on the words of this other person. And I think it helps me in refresh my mind with new ideas based on the amazing knowledge that they're sharing in their books. So for me, the most relaxing things are walking, reading, and then, of course, sometimes it's just, doing goofy things with my daughters, like grabbing like milkshake somewhere or sitting somewhere and just having fun. And I think frequently, just laughing about yourself already kind of helps and kind of like say, all right, so that was that was an interesting week, and moving on. So it's I think sometimes when you're overwhelmed, you need to remember, does it really matter in 5 years or even like 5 days what I'm so tense about right now? Because most of the time the answer is no. So sometimes being overwhelmed, you're just too hard on yourself, and just laughing about it and shaking it off already helps.
What role does community play in your entrepreneurial journey?
I get that question a lot because in the book, the Discovery Superpower book, I
Mhm.
feature all these amazing guests that have been on my podcast, Happy Healthy Hustle.
Yeah.
And the question I get is, so are these all your friends, or how did you meet them? And then I tell them, this is my community. These are my people. Have I met them? Nope. And I don't think I will. It's not really that I don't want to. It's just not necessary for me to know that my friends are physically like living around me. For me, proximity is something that I know they are there when I need them, and they are like stars. I don't always need to see them to know that they are there. I know that I feel that they are there. So community for me is also meeting amazing podcast hosts, having amazing guests, having people that I feel I can listen to and also share what my issues are or my joy is. So the wins and the losses and the little things in between. But I think community is tremendously important for your mental health, but also, of course, for just making life a little bit more enjoyable.
So what's your take on the hustle culture in 2025?
The hustle culture.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think I was very intentional when I chose my name of the podcast, Happy Healthy Hustle, because I wanted to give it a positive spin.
Mm.
I didn't want that everybody thinks hustling is just like this thing to where you see people like in an airport hustling from one gate to the next gate and catching the next project and taking off. I wanted to also think that hustle could be something happy and it could be something healthy.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows what's on your plate? Everybody is coming back to my suitcase analogy. Everybody has luggage that they carry, and everybody has problems and issues. The main thing is just to align this somewhat and still think about your happiness and your health. And I think that's really the main thing when you're going for your goals, and keep in mind that you can't always put your health on the back burner, because eventually the hustling will become harder and harder, and it might not be happy anymore because you're just going from one thing to the next thing. So I really feel like if you think about this Venn diagram, that our hustle culture really needs to align well with our happiness and with our health, especially in 2025. I was thinking about that because I think that there are easier ways nowadays to unplug. All of our phones have a notification setting that you can maybe click on do not disturb, or we have off buttons on machinery and technology. So use those. I think that's something I would want to remind you. You can put your phone away too.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
I think in terms of my younger self, mm, it's a great question because, of course, when I was in my PhD program and the building at Purdue University where I earned my PhD, many of the rooms didn't even have windows in there. It's a beautiful building there, Coronet building at Purdue University. If you've ever been at that university, it's tremendous. But I would give myself the advice in stepping outside. Now, of course, I'm smiling now because it is Indiana, so the winters are pretty brutal there. I still think that even like going for a quick walk around campus or stepping outside, now looking back, it's probably something I would have done more, because looking back is I would drive to the building, I would enter the building, And then in the evening, I would drive back to my apartment. And I think, that happened during the whole length of my PhD time, which was tremendous. I'm smiling when I'm thinking about it. But hindsight, I think that I could have probably explored more. And I think that I do a very good job in my life now. At least I'm striving for it. I don't always succeed every single day, but at least I think that I'm role modeling that to my children, that there is more to than just driving your car to work and back in the evening.
So how do you know when it's time to pivot in your business?
Mm. I think that we have moments, and I group this into buckets of three. Like, we have moments that are amazing, and you just feel like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm in the flow, and this is just great." But you don't even notice how time goes by, and it just seems like success after success. And then we have moments where, okay, where you maybe have to hustle a little bit harder, using that word again. And then we definitely have moments, that third bucket, that's the tough one, where you're feeling, gosh, it's just one thing after another, and it feels like I'm getting no's right and left. Everybody says, no, I don't want to. I don't have money. I don't need this. Or I don't need that. I think that third bucket is tough.
Mm.
Now, remember, it comes in threes. And that third bucket might sometimes seem like it's the biggest one. But you need to remember that you also had the times of joy and the times that were okay. You weren't always in that third bucket. I think sometimes we give up too fast. And we think just because we got 10 people that told us they don't want to do this, that we already think it's not the right thing. And then we're moving on to the next thing and we're moving on to the next thing. Where in reality, the more you pitch, the more power your speaking will actually get. It's somewhat like you're becoming more confident in your product, in your service. And I think that you're also becoming more confident in who you actually speak to. Because who says that you should stop after 10? Maybe that 11th person would have said yes. So I think you need to set yourself a number. Maybe it's 100 and it's not 10. And if you read the stories of successful entrepreneurs, they didn't stop at 10 either. I think I read somewhere that Thomas Edison, before he developed that light bulb, went through like close to 1,000 trials. I mean, think about that. We wouldn't have any light today if you would have given up at 10, right?
Yeah.
So how do we know when to pivot is, I think, if you really start to hate it. I think it's more a matter of you're feeling like it's just really dragging you down and it's doing something to your mental health. I think you should probably step away and maybe need to take a break. And then when you come back and you still feel this way, that's it. So it might not be necessarily that you feel the whole business is a failure, but it's more your mindset about it. Because again, people will pick up on that energy and they will be like, "Oh gosh, what's going on here? This seems like a sad thing." So that I think is more what's going on. But again, a good business coach can help you pivot and can help you spark joy again. I think frequently people just give up too fast. They look at the no as like, it's like the end. Where in reality, I always say no just means next opportunity. It just means we're moving on. It just wasn't the right person. You didn't want that person anyway, right? They didn't really deserve you. We just need to find the person that deserves you. So just move on, right? And I think that people frequently think about that as a personal reaction when you get a no, where in reality, it's okay. We're just moving on. There are other people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. What what keeps you grounded and motivated when things get a little chaotic?
Literally speaking, putting your feet on the ground. It's already pretty good, right? So sometimes you're sitting at your desk and you're like, oh my gosh. And you're feeling like there is like, you're kind of like literally starting to freak out. And then I think getting up, moving away from the situation helps. And then again, asking yourself, is this worthwhile freaking out about now? Is this worthwhile getting upset about? Will I care in 1 week? in 1 month, in 1 year. And so staying grounded also is something to where sometimes you blow things way out of proportion. So put your feet down on the ground, just close your eyes, start breathing, just start connecting back to simple things. Maybe even, going out into the nature and doing this for just 5 minutes, that quick reset button, and then coming back and like, what was this all about? I mean, what in the world? Right? And then, yeah, just like, woof, shaking that off, moving on with my life. That helps a lot.
Awesome. So, how do you help clients balance passion projects with profit priorities?
I think that what you need to be honest in your passion project is it's all amazing, but you also have to figure out how can this actually bring in money, right? And I think that you are worth a lot, and others need to understand that too, that you always want to feel you're sharing something, and especially if it's of value, that eventually there will be a price tag associated with that. So while it's amazing to think this is a passion project, you also have to think, all right, so how can I monetize this? There's so many quick
Yeah.
ways to monetize today that frequently we don't even think about that. And we just keep doing the same old, same old. But I always think at the end of the day, you're worth so much more than free. I mean, nothing is really free, right? That you need to really like understand that your clients, if they really understand the value that's associated with what you offer them, they will pay for this. And don't ever think, well, I feel bad about it, because no business that is thriving thinks like that. I'm sorry about that. This is not how we
Yeah,
should feel.
the price is the price. Like,
Oh, don't feel
like,
sorry.
yeah, that sometimes you doubt yourself like, oh, I shouldn't charge that much. No, if
Um,
you feel that's what you're worth, then that's what you're worth. Like, don't you should never question what you feel you're worth, and especially if it's something that you're very passionate and you're very well informed and you know what you're talking about. Then yeah, you're paying for my knowledge and what I know and what I'm able to share with you and what am I able to teach you to help and develop and grow you. So yeah, no, you sometimes you should, and that's where a lot of that's where they get stuck at. It's like then they don't have confidence in their skill level and they question like, oh, I think I overpriced it. No, if that's what you felt your value was, just because someone doesn't agree with your price, then that person isn't meant for you.
yeah, I always say your self-worth is also your net worth, right? If you feel you're not worth it, then you probably, feel like there's no price to it. But there is a price to you. There's a
Yeah.
tremendous price to you. So you're very much worth it. And I think that underpricing also means that you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And so start believing in yourself, in your amazing superpower, and then price accordingly. And you're going to see that your audience, your clients, your students are going to trust you because they already love what you do. And so the price tag to them is just a little entry stub into your amazing world of sharing your knowledge.
What what legacy do you hope to leave with your work and your message?
Discovering your superpower is your unique value, sharing that with the world. I think that's what I really want to be remembered by. The superpower discovery is the most important thing. Never a moment too early or too late in your life to do that. But that's what it really comes down in your life. You have to figure out what is it that you're here for that you can share with the world and then start doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this has been wonderful. I've had such a great time talking with you. But we've come to the part of the show where you get the solo screen and you get to plug away and you let them know where they can find you, websites, where they can get the book, everything.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time. Thanks for being here, listeners. And of course, I probably now made you curious. How can you discover your superpower? So take my free quiz, Discover Your Superpower. You can find it on my website, discover your superpower at drchristiane.com. It is written out DOCTOR. And then my first name, it's CHRISTIANE.com. And of course, as always, after you discovered your superpower, share that with me. Reach out, send me a quick email, info@drchristiane.com. Reach out via Instagram, maybe take a screenshot of the fantastic findings that you get delivered, because of course you get a custom delivery of your personal superpower score sheet. And on Instagram, it's dr.christiane, or tune into my podcast, Happy Healthy Hustle. And as always, of course, whenever you feel, you have something in mind that you already want to start a business idea, I would love to hear that maybe in a quick coaching call as well. So, yeah, can't wait to connect more.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest. I love having you on the show. Um, Hold on one second. Don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show. We'll chat a little bit off the air. But thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. Shout out to my Real Wise fam, Bobby J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Love you and appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, please follow our YouTube channel, Real Wise TV, as well as Stuck in My Mind YouTube channel. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless you. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.